Hey everybody, Liam Clistrom here for another scrumptious animation oatmeal. Welcome back from your catch-up week. I hope you're feeling well rested. This week I'm going to talk to you about 3 different versions of the Wow Factory, starting with this sultry smooth animation, working up to some more character-driven robot arms that people have done. So let's go ahead and jump into the first person's work. Alright, so first up we have Kenza. Let's go ahead and preview her video. Alright, really great work. Alright, so Kenza obviously has really smooth animation throughout. Not too much fluff on character animation, not really thinking about how to add personality into the arms, but really focusing on how to make overlaps happen, how to make things feel like there's continuity from the left arm all the way to the right arm, and finishing really strongly. So let's go ahead and break it down a little bit. Let me grab my tools. Alright, so first off, everything looks really smooth up until this point. I like this anticipation down here. That's really strong. And then right there, a little bit of pause before grabbing on, and as soon as the slider starts to activate, the arm starts moving around too, which is really great. And right here's my first note, is these dials stop moving even though this keeps coming forward. So let me play that for you. So I think it would help sell it a little bit more to have all those dials spinning and continuously working as if the machine is controlling the conveyor belt the whole time. I like that it's just processing the keyframe, so when it hits, those dials control the process of the keyframe forming, but it'd be nice to just have something tying it into the conveyor belt moving along as well. Clear that out. So great overlap here. The only thing that I'm noticing that I didn't put a note on the portal is that arm kind of really whips up, but it also kind of makes sense, like it's trying to get out of the way. So maybe a little 50-50 split balance of just slowing down the jerk, but also keeping the movement of trying to get out of the way of the other arm. And then that slides into place. And in between this, as this is sliding along, this arm right here slides into place so well. So it kind of comes in from over here. I'll switch colors. And then it swings back over here. And I'll switch colors one more time. And then it finally kind of shimmies into place here. So that play through. It's just got really nice anticipated movement, but overshoots as well. You can kind of anticipate the weight of the arm because of how much overshoot and anticipation it has. So over, up, left, down, and rest. So that's really smart thinking. That's really advanced animation for this level of After Effects work. So great job there, Kenza. And the last little thing, which I didn't note on the portal either, and I'm noticing as I'm reviewing these, is it'd be great to see these boxes shift a little bit when something gets placed on it, just to show that this keyframe box has a little bit of weight to it. But beyond that, you've got a really strong start, really fluid and smooth throughout. Something happens, something else happens, something else happens, and it's all reactive, which is really great. So I'll let this finish playing out before we jump into the next student. Just the drop, just love that little tight swing back, and then the placement, and just overall smooth animation. So Kenza, great work, and let's go ahead and jump into the next student. Alright, so next up we have Michelle. Watch this through really quickly. Have just a little bit of character right there in the beginning, which is really nice. And then all the other arms kind of have this really smooth movement, but just little hints of character throughout. All right, so let's take a deeper look. So as I said while we were watching Michelle's video at full screen, it really has this kind of smoothness that Kenza's had, but it's starting to introduce character as well. So right in the very beginning, you've got this nice hesitation from the robot right in there, and then grab on, and then the smoothest happens where everything starts to react. And right here is my first note, and it's similar to Kenza's, is that this area in here just stops moving after the keyframe is processed, which is fine. You can have it that way. I think to really sell the idea that the factory is working together and there's a cohesion, just have those dials keep going until the keyframe's all the way into the robot's arm. With that said, this is really smart down here. This waiting and having a focal point and slowly having the arm start from down and then build up and then up again, and just kind of rotating up as this gets closer, so that kind of gives an eye trace for where the keyframe's going to go, helps build that anticipation, and is really just adding character to something. So that robot knows to wait, and just going beyond placing keyframes, and everyone seems to be doing that in this course. You guys are going beyond just learning the software, and now you're really starting to learn animation as well, which is awesome. It's kind of coming full circle. So keep playing this a little bit further. So something right there, which I didn't note, is it kind of drags the keyframe off, and you could start having that arc happen as soon as it closes down. And nice getting the arm out of the way there. And right there is my last note at the very end as it kind of plops down. It'd be great to see some weight too. And I mentioned that a little bit in Kenza's, but right here, since it like falls out of the robot's arm and right there kind of has this peak of pressure from the weight and gravity, it'd be cool to see this box and maybe these two boxes kind of shift just a little bit. It's called squash and stretch, or you could even just have like a little shimmy in the position. That would help sell how much weight is in that keyframe. So let's watch it one more time before we go on to the next student. Again, great personality starting off, grabs onto the handle, full cohesion throughout, everything starts moving, looking around the frame. This one looks up here for its job, this one's down here. So it slides in there and goes up, and just a little bit of weight added on at the end would really sell that final plop. So right there, just a little bit of shift in position for the other boxes, or squash and stretch, so when it comes down it kind of like impacts a little bit, squashes down. Things like that just help sell the cohesion a little bit more, but you can learn that in Animation Bootcamp if you haven't already taken that. So great work, Michelle, and let's go ahead and jump on to the next student. All right, our last student for today is Brian. Let's go ahead and review his video. Really awesome camera moves, adding character in with these arms fighting, a little flick of personality, the shelf there, and sliding over into the final placement. So as we just watched with Brian's full screen review, is Brian's kind of got what Kenza started with and Michelle started to touch on with some character, and took it all together and put it to like the power of 5. Adding camera movements in and sliding across, you see some robot arms fighting and just really giving character and personality to the entire frame. So starting off right here, just these robots start to come in and fight with each other a little bit. That was my first note, is they kind of overlap and you see one of the robots take a swing at another robot, but it doesn't actually get out of the way until, so it looks like it hits right there, but it doesn't actually hit, this arm doesn't react to it. So that's something that you could work on with the character, is either have it get out of the way, like it's anticipating that's going to get hit by the other arm, swing back, or if it does get hit, then show it react getting hit and kind of fidget a little bit or stumble. And then it grabs on, and I love that the machine kind of has a little bit of a mechanical failure to it. Similar notes, I'd love to see all this moving around too. And speaking of moving around, right here at the wobble, these little things aren't moving. And so as the course goes into the end of this week and into its final week, Noah and I are probably going to be really nitpicky about certain things like that. So making sure that your layers are parented properly, making sure things are reacting to each other the way that you would expect them to react in animation. You've got some big projects ahead of you, so really make sure that if you haven't been paying attention and you've been missing little marks like that, or missing a click happening in the very first exercise, that you start paying attention to the nitty gritty little details, excuse me, because that's what really sells design, sells animation, sells the media that we work in, is those little details that we put in and layer up on top of each other all add up into complex scenes that really work well together. Even if they seem pretty simple like this, it's a simple scene, but really it's actually very complex. So little details like that just make it all kind of polished and come together. So let that play through some more. I love that the arm is tracing it and kind of trying to figure out when the appropriate time to grab the keyframe is. It's kind of like being at an airport and trying to figure out when you grab your luggage and chasing it around the carousel. So yeah, just kind of has this humor to it right in there. So it finally grabs on, and we see this flick up there. That's where my next note comes in, is right around the apex of this being pushed down. These other boxes would react. So they would slide just a little bit this way. That's a terrible arrow back here. Slide more this way. And then upon the release of the shelf with the arm, it's great that this pops up, but these don't react either, and they would have a little bit of reaction too. Not nearly as much, because the one on the end is the one that's going to fly off into the arc, but just a little bit. Or even right here as that goes back, which this whole animation of the shelf is great. Coming down, kind of holding for a second, and then the springboard up. That's fantastic thinking. Just these little details again, where this would probably just spring up just a little bit. This too, not nearly as much, would come up just a little bit. That ties everything together. I think something that I'm noticing now that I didn't catch when I left my remarks on the portal is that this box, because of how animation moves in arcs, starts off a little bit too straight. So it's going pretty straight up when it's probably actually going to kind of have a circular arc to it. And it starts to arc in a second, but it's a little delayed for that arc. So we can see there's that arc there, and it's following it, but that first little boost off the shelf just springs a little too straight up before going into the arch. So making it a little bit more circular, since I'm going to change colors to show the difference. Got a yellow, maybe that will work. So because this is angled down in this direction, you can kind of think of it like a circle. So it would start to kind of go up this way and then over this way into it. So it follows the arc pretty close from what I've drawn. You can see it right there. Just needs to be a little bit more of a like circular liftoff arc right there instead of straight up. So it's not Elon Musk. You're not trying to go to space. Even those fly at an arc, but you know what I mean. The initial liftoff would be just a little bit straight and then immediately start to have that arc as it's flipping. And then as we move into here, let me clear all this out of there for you guys. You start to see some shadow issues happen, and it's really minute details. I'm being super nitpicky for you, Brian, because you've got so much polish everywhere else that I want to see you succeed and get all your details really narrowed in. So right there, kind of has the shadow shoot off to the right a little bit. I'll clear this out because that's kind of hiding it. Right there, you can see Well, let me go frame by frame. No. Anyway, you can see that the yellow and the blue have this shift. So the blue's over here on the left side, and then all of a sudden the yellow jumps over there to match the shadow the way it should be. So just things to watch out for with that, especially with flips and stuff. Those things are hard to control, but it's the little details, as I've been saying throughout this one. So right there, we see that come in and drops in. That's great. I think right here is a little bit fast compared to how all your other movements go. I like how fast it comes in to grab it, but pulling away seems a little bit fast. That could be reined in a little bit. It's not a deal breaker by any means, but if you look how smooth the arm comes away after putting it down versus pulling away, it's quite a vast difference in speed. All right, so let's watch Brian's one more time, and then we'll wrap it up. So great hitting there with the characters. That's awesome. Love the little airport conveyor belt feeling where you're chasing after your luggage. And then the nice smooth placement. You've even got, it looks like a little bit of jiggle of the keyframe in there. I didn't catch that before. Yep. So if you watch really closely upon tapping down, it's just got a little jiggle in there. And then final rest right there. So great work, Brian. Great work, everyone that I've reviewed. And if you weren't reviewed today, I see you guys are kicking butt. I see what you're posting on Facebook and what you're throwing up on the portal, and everyone is just doing phenomenal work. So great job. It's a hard 4 weeks. It's a lot of software to learn. It's very complicated, and you're also learning some basic animation techniques on top of that. So for everyone who's made it this far and hasn't given up yet, great job. If you've burnt out and you feel like you've given up or you want to give up, try and go get a cup of coffee, go outside, go for a walk, and take in a deep breath, and then come back at it, because there's only 1 real week left, and then there's a little bit of additional time at the end. At least I assume there's going to be, because there is in other boot camps, to get some extra critique done. But no, you're starting to get to that point of the last big project coming, and you don't want to have that looming over your head when you have other stuff to catch up on too. So, all that said, everyone have a great week, and I'll see you in the next episode of The Oatmeal.